Uma vez a cada década, uma nova tecnologia nasce e muda radicalmente tudo. Foi assim nos anos 80 com o PC, nos anos 90 com a web. Agora são as redes sociais. Todos nós estamos vivendo a era do Facebook. Dominá-lo é o primeiro passo para dominar o CRM do século XXI. Ficar de fora é perder competitividade. Nossa próxima palestrante foi pioneira no uso do Facebook para negócios. Chamo ao palco a autora do livro A Era do Facebook, eleita pela revista Fast Company como uma das mulheres mais influentes em tecnologia em 2010, Clara Shih.
Muito obrigada e bom dia. It's wonderful to be here in Brazil for the first time. It's great to witness one of the most vibrant and fastest growing economies, especially here in São Paulo. So thank you very much. So in the spirit of practicing what we preach, I encourage all of you to follow along with the Twitter hashtag DH20, and there's the Twitter handle. If you prefer, my Facebook link. So please follow along and tweet and share any questions that you have so that we can keep the conversation going even after the conference today and tomorrow. So welcome to what I call the Facebook era. I call it the Facebook era, but it's not just Facebook. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Orkut, it's MySpace, it's Mixi in Japan, Rinrin in China, so on and so forth. There's something about social networking that seems to have universal appeal across different regions, across different geographies, across different languages and age groups. And that's what I'm talking about when I refer to the Facebook era. But certainly, Facebook is the largest and fastest growing social network out there today in the world. It's not yet the case in Brazil, but we're seeing a lot of growth there. And on Facebook alone, there are over 500 million active users. But people are not only signing up for Facebook, they're logging in. People spend over 22 billion minutes every single day logged into social networks like Facebook. And so whether you're in marketing or communications or sales or some other business function, you have to be where your customers are. And you have to be where your prospective customers are. And increasingly, this means spending time on social networks like Facebook and like Orkut. And although Facebook very much started off as a youth movement for university students, that's no longer the case. Globally, the fastest growing group and the second largest group are people between the ages of 35 and 49. So as you think about which audience segments you're trying to reach, you really need to think about who's spending time on social networks. And it's not just young people. And in fact, I don't need to tell you this because Brazilians are #1 on social networking sites. Brazil was one of the first countries to really embrace and adopt social networks at a mass scale. And even today, it remains, highest penetration of users spending the most amount of time on social networks. And not only that, but Brazilians are the most social. On average, if you look at the number of connections that each person has around the world, Brazilians tend to have more friends, more connections than anybody else. Nearly 360 compared to the global average of 195. So Brazilians they're friendly people. It's great. And certainly, Brazilians love Twitter and Facebook. I mean, when you look at the growth in the top markets in Twitter, Brazil is #2, right behind Indonesia. It's incredible what's happened over the last 6 months in this country with Twitter. And when you look at Facebook reach, Brazil is still in the top 10. Twitter and Facebook, starting in 2007 and 2008, have really grown significantly here in Brazil. But compared to Orkut, it's still very small. There's still only 5 or 6 million Brazilians on Twitter and Facebook each, compared to over 5 times as many on Orkut. Now, what's going to happen? This is a graph from India. India was the other country where Orkut was very strong. And 6 months ago, Facebook overtook Orkut in India. And now, Orkut is largely flatlined and is decreasing in India. Will the same happen here in Brazil? I don't know. Right now, Orchid still looks pretty strong. Facebook and Twitter are very small in comparison, so only time will tell over the next 6 or 12 months what happens. But businesses, regardless, social networking, social media is significant, whether it's Orchid, whether it's Facebook or Twitter. And as a result, nearly 3/4 of chief marketing officers interviewed in the US this February said that they consider social media a priority. So executives in the United States think that it is a top priority. And I imagine, because many of you are here today at this conference, that you feel the same way. And so what I'm going to talk about over the next 45 minutes is 4 things. First, I'm going to talk about a new buyer psychology that's emerging on social networks. Because Facebook and Orchid changed the way that we interact with each other, this is having important ramifications and implications of how we as marketers communicate with our audiences. With that framework, we're going to talk through 5 specific business use cases of success stories in the US of how companies are using social networks. And hopefully 1 or more of these you can apply to your own work here in Brazil. And then last, we're going to touch quickly upon privacy and also metrics. How do you measure the return on social network investment? And then close with 10 or 15 minutes of Q&A. So let's start off with a video, because I think it really does a great job illustrating what I mean by this new psychology of Facebook. So let me just switch over to YouTube, and I will play this video.
Hello? Poke! Edward Baxter! It's me, Todd from school! Oh, we sat next to each other in maths. We didn't get on, remember? Yeah. Do you want to be my friend? What? Do you want to be my friend, confirm or ignore? All right. Great. Where did we meet? You know where we met. Do you want to skip this step? We met at school. Okay, but how about if we say we met on an oil rig and we were lovers for 50 years? That's not true. It's a joke. It's like a really brilliant joke. Can I get confirmation on that, please? No. Can I get confirmation on that, please? No. Okay, are you in a relationship? I've got to. Is it complicated? It's complicated. Okay, well, what are you looking for? Friendship, dating, whatever you can get. Let's just say random play, because that could mean anything, like really, really kinky, horrible. What's he doing? He's writing on your wall.
So I love this video, and we laugh because it seems so ridiculous, and yet this is how our customers and how all of us interact with each other on social networking sites today. We poke each other, we write on each other's walls, we send each other messages on Facebook or on Orchid. In order for us to be effective communicators with our audiences, we have to understand these new dynamics of communications and of relationships. And really at the heart of this new buyer psychology is the social network profile. It's the Facebook profile or the Orchid profile. Because what this profile has done is it has established a template for our online identity. Now, what is part of our online identity? Well, it's our photo, it's our age, our gender, our hometown, our favorite books and movies, our hobbies, our employer, what we do for a living. This kind of information we never shared publicly, and we certainly didn't share it publicly online prior to the Facebook era. And yet today, people are freely sharing this information about their political views, about their religion, about their favorite sports and their favorite activities. They're sharing this in a semi-public view so that very soon after you meet someone, you could become Facebook friends with them or you could become Orchid friends with them and discover this information. Now, there's important implications here. On an individual level, we're seeing in sociology research that relationships are getting accelerated. Because sooner after you meet someone, you're able to decide and you're able to access this information. You're able to decide whether to be friends with them, whether to hire this person, whether to work with this person. Now, on a business perspective, there's also important implications. Because what Facebook has done is they've exposed an advertising platform that makes it possible for the first time for companies to truly tailor the experiences and messages that you provide for your customers and your audiences. Because now you know someone's age, you know someone's gender, you know where they work, You know what their job title is. You know that they're in Sao Paulo, or they're in Rio, or they're in another part of Brazil. You have much more precise information, and you're able to select exactly which segment that you want to reach with your message. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it's really transformational if you're in the marketing and communications industry. But it's not just about our online identity on Facebook.com or on Orkut.com. Thanks to important technologies like the Facebook Connect, are now renamed to the Open Graph APIs, and the Google Friend Connect APIs, it's now possible for people who visit different websites off of Orkut and off of Facebook.com to bring their identities and their friends and their social graph with them. So here are a few examples. One is LiveNation.com. It's a popular music concert ticket site. You can purchase tickets to different shows that are coming in, like Madonna or Shakira, different people. You can buy tickets. And they integrated with Facebook Open Graph so that if you log in, if you go to the website, you can log in with your Facebook credentials. And instead of just seeing what shows are coming to Sao Paulo, you can see which shows your Facebook friends are going to. I mean, think about how social a concert is. It's really powerful. You want to be able to spread that through word of mouth and get a big group of people together. Another example is a media example. So CNN.com is one of the biggest media companies, news sites in the US. They showed a live streaming video cast of Barack Obama's inauguration last January. And instead of having to watch this historic event by yourself in your home or in your office cubicle, you could log in with one click using your Facebook ID and instantly have a live chat with all of your Facebook friends, and you could talk about this historic moment with them. And so as you think about these different use cases, there's a couple considerations. I mean, one is not only are you making it really easy for people to log into your site, instead of having to sign up through a big long form, they can just click one button and be logged in. The other is that as a website publisher, you get a lot more data about who's coming to your site. It's not just their name and whatever they fill out that's usually not very accurate. They're actually logging in with their online identity so that you can see their age and their gender and where they're from and all these kinds of details that you as a marketer want to know. And so when I was creating the website for my book, for the Facebook era, I said, well, I would like to encourage people to participate on my website, but I know that very few people will sign up to register and give all their information to me. And so I used the Facebook Open Graph API to create this widget, asking people, how has social media transformed your business? Give me your feedback about this book. And so people who visit my website, they can log in using their Facebook ID. So it's just one click, and when they refresh the page and they make any comments here on the page, they automatically get associated with their Facebook profile picture, and also it links back to their profile. So this person is an actual, so I can say, speaking about Facebook in Sao Paulo, and I click post, and not only does this automatically pull my Facebook profile picture, but then you can link through to my profile on Facebook, and you can see that this has taken place. So even though I did this activity off of Facebook, Facebook is trying to aggregate all these actions and all these activities that are taking place across different websites and bringing it into one place. So that is just incredible in terms of thinking about the web and how it's changing from an anonymous web where you have isolated websites everywhere to a social web where all these websites potentially are linked through a single common identity. So it's very forward-looking, and still, even in America, there's many websites who have yet not explored this, but it's something to think about, and it's certainly where the web appears to be headed. And so meanwhile, as these technologies have come out from companies like Google and Facebook, user expectations have continued to change. The bar has never been higher for us as marketing and communications professionals to reach out and really be heard. There's so many marketing messages out there. There's so much spam. How do you differentiate yourself for your users? And certainly one way that I write about in my book is this concept of transitive trust. So transitive trust is not a new concept. It's how human beings have been making decisions, including purchase decisions, since the dawn of civilization. And the way that it works is that if I'm trying to reach Sylvia, but I don't know her, but somehow I can find out that Clayton also knows Sylvia. Well then, because Clayton knows and trusts me, and Sylvia trusts Clayton, Sylvia is more likely to transitively trust me. Now this is true if I'm trying to sell a product, it's true if I'm trying to hire her, and it's true if I'm just trying to reach her for any purpose. And in the past, the problem was it was extremely difficult for me to find out who Sylvia and I knew in common. Who could I ask for a warm introduction? Who could I count on for a referral? But the social graph changes this. With Facebook, with Orkut, we can see exactly how we're connected to different individuals. And we can pick the person we think is the most trustworthy to help us reach this person and help us accomplish our tasks and our different goals. And so that's really how the Facebook era is changing transitive trust and making it easier for marketers to create trusted messages and to deliver those messages. And it turns out transitive trust applies not only for reaching people and not only for personal introductions, but actually also for products and services. eMarketer did a survey last year and got a lot of great data about where consumers look to find information about purchases. So they provided a variety of different sources, including search engine results, emails, editorials, consumer review sites, ads on TV, newspaper ads, and then recommendations from people I know, from my friends. And by far, the most trusted and most important source of information for people when they're trying to decide whether to buy your product is recommendations from people they know. And this should not be surprising. And to be fair, this study was done, actually this was a global study, so it was not US only. And I'm not sure if Brazil was included in the study, but it just makes sense. People trust their friends to help them decide what they're buying. The other aspect of the new Facebook buyer psychology is thinking about Facebook and Twitter as radically new modes of communication. It's just like what we saw in the video just now. It's things like a Facebook message, a wall post, an Orkut message, a tweet. Things like this never existed before. And what we're seeing with social network communications is that it's more casual than anything we've ever had. It's like when we went from in-person meetings to phone calls, and then phone calls to email, and then email now to social network communications. Each time, the cost of staying in touch went down. So we stayed in touch with more people. Because it's far easier to stay in touch by phone with a bigger group of people than you can see on a regular basis. It's far easier to keep in touch via email than it is to call people on a regular basis. And now it's much easier to become Orkut friends with and Facebook friends with and follow on Twitter or be followed by on Twitter than to call or email, call, or see in person. And so again, on an individual level, the implication is that all of our social networks are growing. We are keeping in touch with more people as a global society. And the good news is that sociology research tells us that the bigger networks we have, the more social capital we have, because the more empowered we are and a bigger pool of people we have to draw on when we're trying to hire someone or look for a job, or ask for a favor, or really just count on them for help in general. From a business perspective, it means that companies are focusing higher up in the marketing funnel. Before, you could only afford to talk to people who were almost ready to buy. This is what Google AdWords does, search marketing. People are already searching on Google for a digital camera because likely they know they want to buy one, and so you buy the ad there. But what social media allows us to do, because the cost of staying in touch with someone, the cost of having an incremental person follow you on Twitter is so low that you can go higher in the funnel. And before people are ready to buy the digital camera, before they search for it, you can help influence them to make that decision. You can help guide them and educate them and engage them on things that are important to them and help them realize that they want to buy your product or service. And so that's really the transformational shift that we're seeing in business communications and in the marketing funnel and how we approach that. So that's the contextual framework, talking about this new buyer psychology. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through 5 specific business use cases of companies in the US that are using social media, and think about how you can apply these lessons and these best practices to your own clients and your own issues. Well, the first one is listening. So, I'm sure you've heard this before from Brian and from others. The most important thing in social media before you do anything is to understand that your consumers, your customers, likely are already talking about you. They're already talking about you, they're talking about your industry, they're talking about your competitors. And so before you do anything, you have to understand the context that you're working with. Before you craft your strategy, understand what's already being said. And most often, listening will yield some good comments and also some bad comments. And in the bad comments, you'll find that you'll need to deal with this from a customer service standpoint, where it's someone's complaining about your service, or there is a problem with your product and you need to fix it. And it's a great way to really improve as a company, because otherwise you might not ever receive this honest feedback. The fascinating thing, though, is that there's a US company, many companies, in fact, that have had this experience, but one in particular that I'll tell you about, called Comcast. Comcast is a cable television provider in the US, and a few years ago, Frank Eliason, who used to work there, he was a customer service director there, he went on Twitter because he was curious to see what people were saying about Comcast. And he was shocked to find out that people were saying some very mean things. Things weren't very good. And so one by one, he started responding to people on Twitter and getting back to them. And it took a lot of time at first, but he was able to grow his team out to 10 people at his company whose sole job it was to respond to questions and issues and complaints that came via Twitter. And slowly but surely, people thanked him. People felt grateful that actually someone cared enough about them at Comcast to help answer their questions. And over time, as other people continued to tweet out some issues, some complaints, some negative remarks, Frank's team was very surprised to discover that when someone said something bad about Comcast, it wasn't someone from Frank's team who responded. It was actually another customer, someone that they had helped in the past. Because they had invested in their community, customers were grateful and they loved the brand. And so when other people said negative things, they rose to the occasion and they defended Comcast. And if you think about it, that's far more credible than Frank's team trying to say something to defend their brand. And so the point here is, not that you necessarily focus on crowdsourcing your customer service, but that there's a potential that when you invest in your community, they invest back in you, and they're grateful to you, and you create loyalists and evangelists who are able to defend you in very public settings, such as social media. The second use case is about hyper-targeted social marketing. So as I mentioned earlier, because there's all this profile information about people on Facebook, it's now possible to really tailor and segment your messages that you send out. So how many of you here have actually run a Facebook ad campaign? Raise your hand. Okay, so 4 of you. So for everybody else, I'm going to show you something that's really interesting. So if you find that your audience is on Facebook, or you can actually use this tool to figure out whether your audience is on Facebook, anyone can go to facebook.com/ads/create, and what you can do is you can either choose a destination URL, so this is just like you would send to a traditional landing page, or you can say, I have something on Facebook that I want to advertise. So for example, maybe my book. I would say I want to advertise that, and automatically pulls the profile picture from your Facebook page, and then you can say whatever you want, buy this book, in the text. This is the interesting part, is the targeting. So here, you can specify what profile criteria that you want to target by. So there's 500 million people on Facebook. You obviously don't necessarily want to reach all of them. You can say, well, maybe everyone in Brazil, and maybe people who are over 30. And as you update this criteria, Facebook will tell you how many people fit that profile. So if I want to say, I only want to target women, so now this goes down to 1.3 million. It's about half of what it was. Or I can target people who are married. So then that goes down from 1.3 million to probably a smaller number. I'm not sure what that would be. It'll take a minute to update, and so on and so forth. So basically, every piece of information people share on their profile, you can choose to target. And so if you're trying to reach a very specific demographic, so say people who only went to college, and that's only 20,000 people who are married women who went to college, who even work at a specific place, if you want to target people who work at a company, or target people who have certain interests. So people who like football. So how many married women like football? I don't know, maybe that's a very small number. So there's 40 people. Okay, so maybe I change this to men. Okay, so There's who are not married, let's see. And these are people who specifically say that they like football in their profile. And so, you know, thinking about how many people you want to reach, you can be as general or as specific as you want when you're doing this, and you can really hone in on the exact segments that you want. So this is just one example. I don't know what your particular audience is, but this is a great tool to play around with. But the great thing here is that you can really focus in on your target segments. So for example, I was engaged recently, and when I log into Facebook now, all I see are ads for honeymoon services and wedding planning services and wedding cakes. And I think, well, I'm a good audience for that, because if I was single or if I was already married, I wouldn't be in the market for those services. So think about your product. Or if you work for a brand, even if you work for a brand, think about using targeting to help reach different segments. Because if you're Coca-Cola, the kinds of ads that you'll show to someone who's a teenager, who's a male teenager, is very different than the ads you might show to someone who's married and in their 40s and 50s. And you can use this targeting capability to change and vary and test different messages for these segments. So it's a really powerful tool. The third use case applies more to small businesses. In the US, we're seeing this interesting phenomenon where a lot of small businesses have been extremely frustrated with having to create and maintain their own websites. They just don't have a web developer on hand. They don't really have time to update this information. And so many of them in the US are using Facebook pages instead as their website. They're creating a Facebook page, which is free, and they're connecting with all of their customers and their potential customers using engaging content. And it's interesting because a traditional effort with your website is you'd have to deal with SEO, with search engine optimization, which is your page ranking when people search for your business or your industry on Google. And that's really difficult to figure out. And certainly for the big brands, they figure this out. But if you're a really small business, like this example, you haven't figured it out. So I love this example because this woman, her name is Kimberly Jones. She lives in San Francisco, and she's created a spa. She's created a nail salon and spa that's very popular. And originally, Kimberly created this website for her business. I mean, this is a little bit old, and she doesn't know any technology, so she paid $800 US to have someone build this website for her. And it was so hard for Kimberly to update this website that, I don't know if you can see here, you can see it says Fact of the Year. So it was so difficult and expensive for Kimberly to update her website that she only changed it once a year. So it's ridiculous, right? So we're in marketing. We know you can't have a campaign just once a year. You have to continually have a campaign to have people come in. And so Kimberly said, okay, my website is really frustrating. I don't know how to deal with it. So I'm going to create a Facebook page. This is the Facebook page she has. And now it's very easy for her to update the status, because her updating her new website, that is her Facebook page, is as simple as writing on her own wall. She can upload links, she can add photos, she can do any of the things that all of us are used to doing on Facebook on our personal profiles. And then Kimberly also can connect with people. There's over 197 of our clients who have found her on Facebook and actually engage with her. So Kimberly just had a baby. And so all of our clients, they're commenting, they're responding, and they're building a relationship with Kimberly in a way that they could never do before on her website. And so for small businesses, people like Kimberly, we're seeing a trend in the US that those are replacing websites. Now certainly if you're a big company or a medium-sized company and you have all of this, you have a great website, you have a great SEM and SEO strategy, I'm not telling you to get rid of your website. It's extremely important. And you can do what brands like Dunkin' Donuts does, which is to use their Facebook page as a complement, as a supplement to their existing web strategy to help drive traffic and to have links pointing to each other so that both improve over time. So I know we're running a little bit short on time here, so let me just go through quickly the remaining set of slides that I have. The fourth use case is that you can order pizza on Facebook. So you can actually build applications depending on what your core business is, to further engage users. Now, Pizza Hut built this application that allows people to order a pizza without ever leaving Facebook because they found out that when they caused people to link out of Facebook, the cart abandon rate was extremely high. People didn't go through with a transaction because they wanted to stay inside of the social network environment. So they created this application, and it's really neat. After you place the order, say, Cynthia, she puts in her order for a large pepperoni pizza, then it shows up on her news feed that Cynthia just ordered a large pepperoni pizza, and all of her friends get to see it. And a lot of the young people in America, they like this. It's almost like a game for them. The last use case is branded social gaming. So there's extremely heavy usage, especially for Facebook, of different social games. Zynga is the largest social games producer on Facebook, and Farmville is one of their top titles. So Farmville partnered with General Mills, which is a consumer packaged goods company selling cereals and a lot of foods last year. And one of General Mills' brands is called Cascadian Farms, and they sell organic foods. They specialize in healthy organic foods. So inside of Farmville, you could actually buy Cascadian Farms blueberry crops and start growing them on your farm. And so this was a win for Farmville because they got a lot of advertising dollars, and it was a win for General Mills because they were able to reach millions and millions of users who play Farmville. So thinking about different ways that you can incorporate applications, either functional applications like Pizza Hut or game applications like Farmville, I think is an important growth area to investigate. So the last couple points I'll make, one is privacy is by far the most important issue. Social network companies like Facebook and Orchid, and I think the management teams at both of these companies realize this, and so they're continually iterating and changing the controls to make it easier for people to understand what they're sharing with whom. And then unfortunately I don't have time for this, but I know you have another session on metrics tomorrow, so I'm going to skip that so that we can get to Q&A. So thank you very much for your time. It's great to be here in Brazil for the launch of the second edition of my book, which I saw outside. And so please keep in touch. Thank you. Is there going to be Q&A?
Thank you. Obrigada, Clara. Para moderar as perguntas, eu chamo o Marcelo Santiago, diretor regional de desenvolvimento de negócios da Biomídia Latino-América.
I already have.
Just cause interference. Aqui, mas som. Ah. Ok. Bom dia, pessoal. Tudo bem? A Ana Cavagnoli e o Jeff disse que não pode fazer piadinha, tem que ir direto pro assunto, né? Mas enquanto a Clara está... Clara, hi.
Yes, hi.
Shall we sit? Eu vou te fazer as perguntas em português para que todo mundo na plateia possa entender, ok? Great. Okay. A primeira pergunta, na verdade, é: você não tem ações do Facebook, nada não, né? Acho que ela não entendeu. You're not a Facebook shareholder, right?
No.
Okay, great. Uma pergunta que tem sido recorrente, tanto a gente está fazendo aqui pelo Twitter, e tem sido em relação a se as pequenas empresas não estão pulando etapas, deixando de se preocupar com os seus consumidores para estabelecer uma página no Facebook ou no Orkut, onde quer que seja, principalmente no Facebook, se elas não estariam pulando etapas aí em relação a se preocupar com os negócios em si, ou seja, automatizar processo, diminuir filas no caixa, etc. Você mostrou um exemplo do SPA que me parece bastante relacionado. Podia tratar um pouquinho disso, por favor?
Is it supposed to be translated?
Yes, it's supposed. I guess. Isso é porque era sem piadinha, né?
There is no translation.
Okay, the question is, you take it off?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
I guess. The question is, if small business, they're not skipping steps, establishing Facebook pages before thinking on processes and helping the clients in their stores, or creating processes that can automate the way they relate to these clients. Are they skipping steps, going straight to the Facebook?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And businesses of all sizes, both small and large, who skip steps and don't create a strategy, they'll often find themselves
abandoning their efforts because they didn't think through it. They didn't realize how much time it would take. In Kimberly's case, she followed the first step of listening. She realized that her clients were on Facebook and that it was a worthwhile investment for her to spend time building a presence there. And she also realized that the time she was trying to spend on her website could be better spent using the Facebook page. And so in that case, she did think through her strategy first.
Okay, great. I'll speak in Portuguese and then I'll speak in English. Okay, it seems now we can do it. Deixa. Uma outra pergunta, não sei se eu posso revelar o nome das pessoas que estão perguntando, acho que sim, porque elas tweetaram publicamente. Pergunta do Kavinsky. Is it working now? It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
A pergunta é, a gente vê uma grande integração entre social media e busca, search engine. Você acha que a social media é a busca do futuro, ou seja, as audiências estão migrando da utilização de Google, Yahoo, Bing para Twitter, Facebook e esses outros ambientes?
That's an excellent question. So there's two things happening. The first thing that's happening is that people are searching more on Facebook Facebook and Twitter for information about products and services in different companies. The second thing that's happening is relating to the Facebook Open Graph I was telling you about earlier, where you can extend the social graph information to different websites. So this hasn't happened yet, but once Facebook extends their identity layer to a shopping site or to a search engine, it'll be extremely powerful because not only will people be searching based on keywords, but they can actually rank search results based on network relevance, based on what their friends have clicked on, based on what purchases their friends have made. So I think that is the future. And as you think about, you think about the Open Graph in general, I think that's an equivalent to a social version of AdSense over time.
Interesting. Outro ponto, uma pergunta pessoal minha, um caso que aconteceu comigo recentemente. Eu fui viajar para uma série de reuniões e esqueci de levar meus cartões de visita. Que belo executivo. E aí eu fiquei pensando que nesse mundo digital que a gente está, de Facebook, Twitter, iPhone, BlackBerry, o quão anacrônico é você ter um negócio em papel como um business card. O meu discurso para as pessoas que quando me pediram business card, e eu estou pensando em adotar isso seriamente, eu não tenho cartão, você pode dar um Google no meu nome ou você pode me procurar no Facebook, todas as minhas informações estão lá. Você acha que isso poderia ser viável? Ou seja, social poderia substituir o cartão de visitas, por exemplo, já que cada vez mais as pessoas têm internet em todos os aparelhos?
I think so. I mean, it's similar to how we're using Kindle and other e-book readers instead of reading books. Some people will always still prefer to read the physical book, but a growing number of people, especially younger generations of people, they just want to read the electronic form. And so, what I see a lot becoming much more popular in the US is people don't bring their business cards anymore, and they instantly add each other on Facebook and on Twitter while they're talking through their iPhones and their other mobile devices.
Ok, então eu estou na vanguarda, então, é isso? Muito bom. Gente, perguntas, tá? A gente está recebendo aqui. Vamos ver mais uma aqui, para não dizerem que... tem uma... para você falar um pouquinho sobre a sua primeira interação com o Facebook, ao criar o software que permitiu Salesforce e Facebook se integrar, se você acha que social poderia... qual o papel de Facebook ou social em geral em ações de CRM?
Sure. So I started using Facebook in 2004. I was in graduate school at Stanford. And after that, I worked at Google and I worked at Salesforce.com, so online advertising and then CRM company. And so I started thinking a lot about these issues. And as I was using Facebook more and more in my personal life, I realized that in many ways, Facebook is like a CRM system that we use. It's how many of us keep track of our personal and professional contacts. And you can remember people's phone numbers, you can remember their birthdays, you can do all sorts of things using Facebook as a database for your contacts. And so this was really what inspired me to develop Face Connector, which is an integration between Facebook and popular CRM systems. Because I realized that as a salesperson or a business development person, anyone who uses CRM, you don't want to just know someone's name and title and their phone number. There's so much more to Marcelo and to other people than just that information. You want to understand who they are. You want to see, their dog. Maybe you have the same kind of dog. You want to see their hometown. Maybe you're both from Santos. There's all sorts of information that is part of our daily human existence and our conversation that can help both in personal and professional business relationship building.
Interesting, a lot, of course. Quantas pessoas na plateia conhecem esse aplicativo dela? Eu vou ter que mentir aqui, né?
One.
Yeah, one. Well, it's too dark, maybe. Eu tenho uma sensação pessoal, trabalhando no mercado, de que, obviamente, a bola da vez, o hype do momento é social, como foi... You got it? Como foi busca nos últimos 24 ou 36 meses. Hoje em dia, a gente vê muitas pessoas que até ontem eram especialistas em algum outro tema, busca, por exemplo, são especialistas em social media. Eu sou um social media expert. Você sente isso um pouco, a banalização desse profissional, enfim, as pessoas querendo surfar a onda aí sem ter um real conhecimento?
Yes, of course. I think that always happens with technology and consultants who are savvy. You always want to be providing solutions where there's demand. And right now, the demand is with social media. So I think as a client, if you are a client, if you're a company, you represent a brand and you're looking to work with a consultant or with an agency, you really need to make sure that they understand this technology and they understand it a lot better than you. And it requires a lot of collaborative learning. I mean, just like early on, we made some mistakes in search, and it took some iteration for us to figure out what the science of search was. We similarly need to arrive to that state with social media. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to cover it in my presentation, but a lot of this involves creating a strategy, really having a comprehensive approach that spans not only social, but also search and your website and your other aspects of marketing, both online and offline. And it also encompasses having real hard metrics that you're going after.
Outro ponto que tem sido recorrente nas nossas perguntas aqui é a relação de social media com mobile marketing. As suas impressões sobre isso um pouquinho, assim, o impacto e a importância.
Yeah, so the interesting thing is that there's actually more Facebook users using the mobile Facebook application than there are Twitter users. So I think what that tells me is that a growing number of social networking sites, people prefer to access them when they're on the road, when they're mobile. And a big push that Facebook is investing in right now is actually competing in some ways with Foursquare. So Facebook recently did a pilot deal with McDonald's, where you can check in to McDonald's using your Facebook mobile application. And so over time, because Facebook has a lot of these advertising relationships already, and they also have the social graph, they have all these users signed up, whether you have an iPhone or another device, I think that Facebook will continue to innovate and provide more functionality on the mobile side.
Uma last question. Última pergunta, a gente está um pouquinho fora do horário já, e já deram um sinal de 5 minutos aqui. A minha impressão pessoal, novamente, baseado no que a gente vê em perguntas e o que a gente conversa com os profissionais aqui, é que social media, você interagir no Facebook, interagir no Twitter, etc., fica a sensação de que às vezes as pessoas complicam um fato que todo mundo já sabe. Ou seja, no seu dia a dia, para que as pessoas respeitem e escutem você precisa ser educado, né? Você precisa falar coisas interessantes, você precisa saber escutar e ouvir e falar apenas quando te derem permissão. A minha impressão, muitas vezes, é que se cria um mito. Eu vi na apresentação anterior do Brian, ele mostrou um gráfico ali com os influenciadores que ele encontrou, que eu entrei em pânico, fiquei morrendo de medo, né? Mas no dia a dia você tem que, no dia a dia dos negócios, você sempre teve que encontrar as pessoas, os advogados da marca e etc. Você não acha que às vezes toda essa teorização em torno da social media não é algo que as pessoas naturalmente já deveriam saber, naturalmente deveriam entrar? É uma forma de, desculpe, é uma forma de se aí vender produtos, livros e marketing e cobrar muito caro e surgir os experts?
I think it really depends. I mean, I agree with you that social media is a natural progression in the web because the first 15 years of the web was all about information, and that was really important and really powerful, giving access to information to everyone. But now we're getting interesting because it's not just about information, it's actually about people and about relationships. And ultimately, that's what matters most to us as human beings, both our personal relationships and our business relationships. In terms of what people should expect out of social media, I think it's important to use the privacy control settings, whether you're using Orchid or Facebook or Twitter, and really think about who your audience is. Just like we think about our audiences and we segment our audiences as marketers, we have to do the same in our personal lives. And certain photos from a party that you go to, you might want to just share with your friends and family, whereas certain business conference photos you might not want to share with your friends, but you want to make that available to your colleagues and to your different business partners. And so it's really giving users the control and the awareness about what's being shared that I think is different from previous web or previous offline interactions.
Yeah, what seems to me is, of course, we take advantage of the technology involved. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Obrigada.
Obrigado, pessoal.